Okay, thank you very much. Thank all of you very much for taking the time to come. We are going to have 3 items on the agenda today. First, we're going to hear about a new personnel system for the state of New York and a new recruitment system. I've told many of you before in the past that one of the great challenges we've had is staffing up, recruiting staff for this state. It's hard. In many cases, the salaries aren't that competitive. State service hasn't had the greatest reputation over the past few years, as you know. So the appointments process, the recruitment process has been an ongoing challenge, and we're going to talk about a reform process for that. We'll then talk about the next wave in the New York Open for Business ads. We had announced the New York Open for Business campaign several months back. We had previewed the first wave of ads. We'll now have the second wave of ads. And third, and a really striking piece of work, I think, that is going to be very important for the state is the energy superhighway, which Gil Quinones will speak about and do a presentation. First, on the personnel function, I'll turn it over to the Secretary, Larry Schwartz.
Thank you very much, Governor. I'm just going to speak briefly on this new initiative called the new New York State Center for Recruitment and Public Service that's going to be housed in the Office of General Services. I'm going to ask Commissioner DeStito to go through some PowerPoint slides, but before I ask her to begin that, let me just make a few comments regarding this new office and new initiative. I mean, one of the things that you tasked me and other members of your administration, as you said early on when you became governor, is that you wanted to find the best and brightest talent and to recruit them and bring them into state government. Regardless of party affiliation, regardless of where they came from, you wanted the best and the brightest because public service meant something and that we needed to do a better job of recruiting and finding where that talent exists and convincing them to come and serve the people of the state of New York. And the truth of the matter is, if we're going to be honest about it, is that the way the appointments office has always run for many, many, many years here in state government, here in the chamber, it's been seen more and has acted more as sort of like a political patronage operation than it has as an executive search firm. And what you've tasked us to do, and you asked me to do working with Commissioner DeStito, was to create that talent bank, to create that executive search firm, to take the politics out of it, to find the best and the brightest people we can, whether they're from New York State, obviously as first priority, or wherever they are in this country, and to bring them here to New York and to serve in your administration. And that's exactly what we've done, working with Commissioner DeStito. We've now taken what used to be known as the appointments office and have relocated them in the Department of General Services, and we've gave them a new name, new staffing, a new look, which is the New York State Center for Recruitment and Public Service. And what this new operation is tasked to do is really put together a first-rate, state-of-the-art recruitment operation to compete with the private sector in finding the best and brightest talent and bring them to state government, to be proactive and no longer reactive. In the old days, you'd wait for some county chair or some elected official say, can you hire A, B, C, or D? That's no longer going to be the way that this operation will perform. It will perform based on talent, and it will be working with all of our state agencies and our public authorities to match your needs, to find out what it is that you need so that you are best in class, best in the nation at running your agencies by helping you and working with you find the very best and brightest talent in this country to help you in that mission. And with that, I'd like to kick it off to Commissioner DeStito and let her go through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Larry. Thank you, Governor Cuomo. I'm here to talk about something that I believe Larry highlighted that's been on the governor's mind for a while. Not that this will come as a surprise to anyone who has been in Albany for any length of time, but making appointments and finding talented people who want to enter public service to benefit New Yorkers has often been a daunting and drawn-out process. Interviews, background checks often took so long that sometimes the potentially good people got frustrated and found other opportunities or became unwilling to serve. Mismatches happened, the wrong person with the wrong skill sets was appointed to the wrong position, and sometimes there was politics. This was not a functional system designed to recruit the bright and best people to serve New York. Governor Cuomo recognized this problem and decided it was time for a change. We need to take a new approach so that we can attract and retain the best and the brightest to serve the people of the state of New York. Larry, that's exactly what you said. I'm pleased to say that we have a plan to fix it. It's the New York State Center for Recruitment and Public Service, and it will replace the Governor's Appointments Office and will join the other progressive enterprise services that include strategic sourcing, real estate, business service center, and fleet management that have recently become part of the OGS portfolio, and I know that we've talked to each and every one of you about these issues, and we will work closely with you. I've been in public service for most of my career, and I have found working to help other people very fulfilling. We need to attract more people to this honorable profession that we are in, and so how will we recruit the best and the brightest? We're going to apply private industry strategies and techniques to state recruitment efforts by partnering with national executive recruitment firms. Tomorrow, we will offer an RFP through OGS for these services, one that can put the strategies in place that will help us attract people to commit their time and expertise to serving the people of New York State. That will help us better match the right people with the right skills to the right positions. We'll learn how to use best-in-class, modern, professional methods so we can brand New York State as an employer of choice, strengthen the state's competitive position in the talent marketplace, and maximize social media opportunities. We want to establish and track benchmarks for success. We want to streamline and modernize the background process for the candidates and build the New York State recruitment portal so that people will have, the interested candidates will provide an online access. The new OGS is best positioned to lead and implement this best-in-class professional process. We're very excited by this new challenge and are looking forward to establishing the Center for Recruitment and Public Service. And I would like to thank the Governor, I'd like to thank Larry, and I'd also like to thank my staff who put this together with us, Joe Rubito, Gail Hammond, our deputy, and Dan Cunningham. Thank you. Thank you, Governor, very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well said. And as everyone around the table knows, this is the heart of what we do. We're limited by the talent we have and the staff we have. It's a confluence of events, but it's been one of the great challenges that we've had, I found, over the past 2 years. And I believe this is going to make a big difference. So thank you very much, Rowan. Next, we'll go to Ken Adams, who will show us the latest advertising in the New York Open for Business. Ed.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon, everyone. Businesses and New Yorkers see that there is a new New York with new energy and momentum. Now it's time to capitalize on that by rethinking the state's communications approach to better define and communicate our state's brand in a consistent manner. And to do that, we need to treat New York State like a Fortune 100 company. New York State is the master brand, with business, tourism, and products as strategic business units. Now, we started with new tourism ads featuring the I Love New York logo, and then the New York Works for Business ads featuring Robert De Niro, Jay-Z, and Alicia Keys, to show the world that New York was the place for businesses to come to grow and to create jobs. Now we're launching 2 new ads this week that focus on small business and technology success. These ads demonstrate our core positioning, that there's no place like New York to succeed at work, play, and life, and that nothing about New York State is small. Whether it's business, personalities, ideas, or culture, New York does it in a big way. So what's the central message? Big happens here. Thank you.
Very nice.
Very good.
You remember the first phase of ads? Ken referred to them. The voiceover was by Robert De Niro. That launched it, the Jay-Z song, so it was very upbeat, talking about the New York business development. And then obviously this phase focuses on small business and the tech sector. So great. Very well done. Thank you. Okay, let's turn now to Gil Quinones, who will give the report on the energy superhighway. If you remember, we talked about this in the State of the State. I think it's no doubt one of the great needs for the state. You talk to businesses all across the state, they'll talk about taxes, regulations, and they'll talk about power and their access to power. And it is probably one of the greatest economic transformations that we can provide for the state. And it's a very big undertaking and very ambitious. It's probably one of the most creative ventures in the nation going on in terms of an energy transmission system. So with that, Gil Quinones.
Thank you and good afternoon. I'm Gil Quinones, the President and Chief Executive Officer of the New York Power Authority and co-chairman of the Governor's Energy Highway Task Force. Today, on behalf of the task force, it is my privilege to present to Governor Cuomo the blueprint for the New York Energy Highway. This blueprint puts us on course to realize the governor's bold vision of rebuilding and rejuvenating the state's energy system through unprecedented partnerships between the public and private sectors. Pending his review and approval, we are ready to begin implementing it immediately. The objective of this far-reaching blueprint, with 13 specific recommended actions, is nothing less than to transform New York's aging, congested energy infrastructure so that it will be equipped to support economic growth and to supply reliable, economical, and clean power to the state's residents and businesses far into the future. Through the public-private partnerships, the Energy Highway Blueprint promises to generate up to $5.7 billion in investments over the next 5 to 10 years, to lead to development of up to 3,200 megawatts of expanded transmission and generation capacity, including energy supplied by repowering older, inefficient generating plants, and by building new plants powered by clean, renewable fuels such as the wind and the sun. To support thousands of jobs during construction. And for those of you who may be wondering, let me point out that a megawatt is enough electricity to serve about 800 to 1,000 homes. Shortly after Governor Cuomo announced the Energy Highway initiative in his State of the State address last January, he created our task force, consisting of the heads of the state's principal agencies dealing with energy, economic development, and the environment. My fellow task force members are here today, so I'd like to recognize them and thank them for their efforts. Co-Chairman Joe Martens, Commissioner of the State Department of Environmental Conservation, Ken Adams, President, Chief Executive Officer, and Commissioner, Empire State Development, Gary Brown, Chairman of the State Public Service Commission, and Frank Murray, President and CEO of the State Energy Research and Development Authority. From the start, the task force was committed to making development of the Energy Highway blueprint a transparent and inclusive process. A key part of this effort was a request for information, or RFI, that we issued on April 11th, 85 entities, including the state's investor-owned utilities, private developers, investors, and others, submitted 130 proposals and ideas in response to the RFI. The responses included proposals for specific projects accounting for more than 25,000 megawatts of capacity from new and existing generation and transmission, along with recommendations concerning energy policy and new technologies. To put that 25,000 megawatt figure in perspective, the state's current total installed generating capacity is 39,570 megawatts. I can tell you that we were extremely impressed by the quality and thoughtfulness of the responses to the RFI. Each of the recommended actions in the blueprint is linked to one of four major strategic goals: expand and strengthen the Energy Highway, accelerate construction and repair, support clean energy, and drive technology innovation. For each action, we assign one or more state agencies as the lead public partner, and in almost all cases designate other partners, including the private sector. We've tried to go beyond the conventional reliance on standard utility 10-year forecasts and projections in assessing the need to replace aging infrastructure. Instead, recognizing that investments in electricity infrastructure provide benefits for decades, we've taken a long-term view that considers costs and benefits over 40 to 50 years. We believe this new approach will provide a foundation for a stronger, cleaner, and more technologically advanced energy system for our state. Let me now turn to some of the various actions. We call for investing as much as $2 billion to expand transmission and generation by up to 2,200 megawatts. This will include a $1 billion investment for the development of 1,000 megawatts of new alternating current transmission projects along existing transmission right-of-ways to offset and mitigate environmental impacts. The new transmission capacity will relieve the existing bottlenecks and enable energy from upstate sources, including wind projects, to reach the downstate areas of greatest demand. The other 1,200 megawatts will come from construction of transmission or generation intended to address potential power plant retirements across the state. In a first-time initiative, the Department of Public Service, or DPS, will invite developers and transmission owners to file notices of intent to build alternating current projects that would increase the capacity to transfer power from upstate and central New York to lower Hudson Valley and New York City. In addition, the local utilities, at the direction of the DPS and, where applicable, with the assistance of the New York Power Authority, will be asked to file a schedule and plan for the potential closure of power plants across the state. The plan should include a form of a request for proposals that would be issued to procure needed resources to address system reliability requirements. The blueprint also focuses on accelerating construction and repair work on existing electricity and natural gas infrastructure. We propose investing up to $1.3 billion over the next 5 years, $800 million in electric generation, transmission, and distribution, and $500 million for natural gas distribution. The benefits will include enhanced reliability and safety, jobs, and lower cost for consumers. To support clean energy, we call for investing $2.2 billion to provide 1,000 megawatts by building renewable energy plants and repowering existing fossil fuel plants to make them cleaner and more efficient. We are proposing executing up to $250 million in new contracts with renewable energy developers within the next year under the state's renewable portfolio standard. This should enable us to leverage an additional $425 million in private sector investment for the construction of up to 270 megawatts of renewable sources. And we look beyond the expiration of the current RPS in 2015 by calling for continued annual investment and contract solicitations for new large-scale renewable energy projects after that date. We also recommend studies and pre-development work to further assess the potential for offshore wind project development in the Atlantic Ocean. To promote repowering, we propose that utilities be required to evaluate that option as a potential solution when plants needed for reliability are scheduled for retirement. To drive technology innovation, we call for $250 million in investments to promote and demonstrate the sophisticated series of technologies known as smart grid, and to create here in New York the nation's most advanced energy management system. To this end, we support efforts to make the state the home of a federal smart grid technology hub and of an advanced energy management system control center. One of the most striking and positive features of the Energy Highway Blueprint is that it will be carried out in various parts of the state for the benefit of all New Yorkers. This is not a plan for upstate or a plan for downstate. It is a plan for New York State. Statewide benefits will result from such actions as the development of new renewable energy projects, the accelerated investments in the electric and natural gas systems, the smart grid initiatives, and the emissions reduction and community support programs. As the map shows, certain other activities will be centered on particular regions. In addition to specific actions, the blueprint recommends various policies that will benefit the entire state. Among them are proposals to support workforce development in the energy industry, to advance policies to encourage distributed renewable energy development, including the Governor's New York Sun initiative, and to promote energy efficiency and other demand-side measures. In fact, the blueprint, though focused on supply-side actions, clearly points to energy efficiency as a critical element of a comprehensive energy plan. We are prepared to move forward with the blueprint's proposed actions, some through existing processes and others through new or expanded procedures such as the DPS transmission solicitation. Some of the actions, as shown, can start immediately and all no later than next summer. Work will be completed over several years, in all cases by 2020. With the blueprint for the Energy Highway, which we now submit to Governor Cuomo, New York stands on the cusp of a bright new energy future. We can lead the nation in meeting the needs of a 21st century economy and society, and in so doing, bring lasting benefits to the people of our state. The opportunity is at hand, and thanks to Governor Cuomo and your leadership, we are ready to seize it.
Very nice. Thank you very much, Gil. It's a very impressive piece of work. Joe, you have anything to add? Ken?
One, I'd just like to congratulate Gil and the leadership from the Power Authority and Governor. I think the plan from an environmental standpoint is extraordinary. It has the potential to reduce emissions, greenhouse gases, and certainly promotes renewables, both from upstate and repowering downstate is good for, as Gil said, people across the state of New York. So congratulations to Gil and the entire team. I think it was a great effort.
Great. Ken?
Yeah, no, I would just add, and Gil pointed it out in his presentation, is a huge economic development benefit to this initiative. It's such a critical issue for reliability, transmission, cost. All these issues are so critical for businesses and for economic development. So it's been a pleasure to be part of it, and it's really going to be helpful.
Great. Anyone have any questions on this? Comments?
Governor,
Yes.
if I can just also mention 3 new hires to your administration.
Oh, please.
You know, I think that this is a great segue to what I said when we opened up the cabinet meeting today, in that you wanted us to find the best and the brightest to be part of state government, be part of your administration. I think these 3 individuals clearly fit into that mold and category. First person I'd like to announce is a part of this cabinet, part of this administration, is Katie Sherwin, who's going to become the Director of Cabinet Affairs, replacing Irene Baker. Katie worked for the governor's distinguished counsel, Mylan Dennerstein,
Distinguished counsel.
the great Mylan Dennerstein, and Katie's new position will be responsible for all the surrogate activities of the governor's cabinet. Second person I'd like to announce is a young man named Ian Rosenblum. Ian is going to now, he started today actually, become the Director of Policy Coordination. He'll be working with Deputy Secretary for Policy Management Jim Malatras. Ian came from the office of Governor Ed Rendell, former governor of Pennsylvania, Ed Rendell. He was the Secretary of Policy and Planning under his administration. Ian, you want to stand? And we were also able to find a great and fantastic new Director of Communications, replacing a great and fantastic soon-to-be former Director of Communications, Allison Gollust. Allison, former Executive Vice President of Corporate Communications at NBC Universal, has agreed to take over from where Rich Bamberger has led off, and Allison's already, in just 5 days, has done a great and fantastic job. And Governor, if I can, just as a point of preference, I just want to, again, and you'll have the last word at the going away party for Rich, but for those of you that may have had a chance to see an article that appeared in Saturday's paper that was done by AP, I just want to say that maybe I was the last to know, but I read a very moving article. I think all of us read a very moving article about a colleague of ours who faced a number of physical challenges growing up in life and even in his adulthood. And Rich, you have nothing but my admiration and respect that you found the courage and persistence to overcome those challenges, as well as my admiration for the governor, your employer, who also helped provide the courage for you to overcome those challenges. And I just want to say I was very moved and flattered that I've had the opportunity to work with such an outstanding person as yourself, both on a personal and professional level, and I believe all my colleagues feel the same way.
Okay, well said. Any questions from the press? Hi, Susan.
Regarding your expansion of transmission plan, what Champlain, Pleasant, Power Express for Canada, where does that fit in? And does this all take into account the governor's intent to, stated intent, before the plan closes, the point?
Yeah, let me say this first, then I'll ask Gil on the Lake Champlain line. The Indian Point is, my position on Indian Point, I have held for many years, and I've acted on as Attorney General, et cetera. That is unrelated, no direct correlation between my opposition to Indian Point and the state's need for an energy highway, right? They're two separate things. And I do believe Indian Point should be closed. If Indian Point is closed, you would need to find power to substitute for Indian Point. That's true. And that's always been true. But Indian Point or no Indian Point, the state still needs an energy highway and still needed the improvements that we're talking about today. So they're separate concepts, and they are, I guess you could say they're tangentially related, but they're separate concepts in and of themselves, right? Gil, on the Lake Champlain?
That's the also known as the TDI project. It is one of the respondents to the RFI that we issued. That project is currently going through a citing process, an Article 7 citing process before the Public Service Commission. And as I mentioned in my presentation, when the Department of Public Service initiate an RFP to address potential retirements of aging power plants across the state, I would be surprised if they are not going to respond to that opportunity as well.
Just following up on that, you said there was $1 billion to bulk up the AC transmission network. My understanding is that TDI project is a DC network. So can you talk about how those two relate? Can you also give some more details about what investments that's going to entail? These booster stations or these new lines?
The $1 billion for existing AC system, as you pointed out, will be to unclog the bottlenecks that have been long-standing north of Albany and south of Albany along existing transmission right-of-ways. And the kind of investment that will be done there will be to reconductor or replace the line so that they can carry more capacity, maybe put 2 circuits rather than 1 circuit along existing right-of-ways. That's how you increase the throughput of electricity from upstate to downstate. The bulk of our grid is really alternating current. It's very flexible, it responds to emergencies very well, and it allows power plants to interconnect at multiple points in the grid. And we need to make sure that that is robust and that it is as efficient as possible in terms of power flows. The TDI, as you correctly pointed out, is a high-voltage direct current transmission system, and HVDC type lines are used to transport power over long distances or interconnect incompatible grid systems. And that really performs or is more akin like a power plant. And so the $1 billion is to increase the throughput along existing right-of-ways of our AC or alternating current system.
What will that do to the price of power in Western New York, where it's cheaper because it's obviously closer to the big transmission sources? It sounds like you're just making it easier to send it downstate. And I'm wondering, is that going to hurt Western New York less?
It shouldn't. I mean, if you look at our system, 1/3 of the supply is downstate, where you have 2/3 of the demand, whereas you have 2/3 of the supply upstate, but 1/3 of the demand. And so during the hottest of the hottest days, this excess capacity is bottled upstate and cannot flow downstate. So by unclogging the bottlenecks, you are just making the entire system more effective and efficient from a power flow perspective.
Governor, the city board of elections has been pushing for a change in the primary date for 2013, saying they need more time between the general election and the primary. Mayor Bloomberg has criticized this. I was wondering if you had an opinion on where the primary date should be for next year.
Glenn, it's one of the issues that we'll be talking to the legislative leaders about, and I'll wait for those conversations.
Do you have a personal preference?
I want to speak to legislative leaders first about it.
Governor, there's been a number of job announcements, positive ones in Sikorsky down in the Elmira area, GM plant to close near Rochester. Just on Friday, Hickey Freeman's owner said it's going bankrupt. Is there any communication with the administration and these companies? Is there anything that the state should be doing to try to keep these companies here?
Joe, we do everything that we can do, and there's communication depending on, sometimes if a company's made up its mind and it wants to go, they actually don't want to have any communication because they don't want to engage in a dialogue that they know is going to be pointless or fruitless. But it's exactly what we strive to do, is work with businesses, and when they're considering possibly moving, are there incentives that we can put together that keep them here? Are there burdens that we can reduce to keep them here? You're going to have an ebb and a flow, right, all through this. This is not a static system. First, you have a state system that exists within the national economy, right? So that's the main force that's driving the tide and the current. And then you'll have an ebb and flow itself within the state system. Some companies will move in, companies will move out. We obviously had a couple of losses that are very unfortunate, especially in upstate New York where we need the jobs. But there are companies that are talking about coming to New York at the same time. So it's the net of all of that activity that's really relevant. But when we hear about a business that wants to leave, we do everything we can to try to keep them here.
Governor, any word on when you're going to hit the road for President Obama?
Hit the road, Andrew. They will, could be a song almost, Ken. They would, I'm waiting to hear from them basically at what works for them. I have certain commitments here work-wise, but I have flexibility also. And when they tell me what works for them as a campaign, that's what I'll be doing.
With 2 weeks to go, do you expect to be doing more campaigning within New York as well?
Yes. Yes, I will. Now you're coming up to the point where endorsements are relevant and sort of activities that stimulate the vote are relevant. So I will be doing more endorsements within the state also, congressional endorsements, legislative endorsements.
State Senate in particular?
Within the legislature.
Governor, it's 20 months into your administration. Excuse me, it's almost 22 months into your administration now. Why didn't the office for recruitment get done a little bit earlier?
We were doing other things.
What should we read into? Obviously you filled most of your administration.
No, Jimmy, not at all. This is a major problem, is getting talent in the state. Major problem. And I said it's a dynamic that I think is a product of a number of factors. Many of the jobs, the salaries are not competitive, period. Second, this is one of the, I think, the legacy of years of bad publicity about Albany, about state service, the scandals. And then you say to someone, leave your private sector job, move your family to Albany, come to work for the state. And they say, after all I've heard about working in the state government for all these years, why would I want to be part of that? Now, I believe we have a different trajectory over the past 22 months. I believe we have a different story. But I can tell you it is a major, major problem. And we are limited by the talent. You're running an agency. You are limited by the talent you have. And it is incredibly difficult to find people for these top jobs. Many of them, they're not especially glamorous. And as I said, the salary is not competitive. So it is very, very hard. Now, the appointments office on the second floor, the appointments office function assumed in many ways the input. It assumed that you had a system out there that was finding recruits and sending them to the second floor, and then the second floor would basically decide among the candidates generated, right? You can have a discussion of where the candidates were coming from, where the recruits were coming from, but that was the theory. We have the opposite problem. We don't have the input. We don't have enough qualified candidates for these positions. So we need a recruitment mechanism. And we're competing with large companies, and we have to put together the sophistication and team and process to go out, find, frankly, pitch, sell, recruit people to come work in the state.
Governor, do you think that President Obama will use
Excuse me one second. Did I interrupt you, Rowan? Did you want to make a point?
No, there are a lot more positions, because these aren't just staffing positions. These are appointments to commissions, boards, councils, that type of thing. So appointments does more than just staffing state government also, and their leadership in many of our other organizations.
You try to get someone to serve on a board or a commission?
Right.
It's incredibly difficult. They don't want to subject themselves to it. They don't want to go through the hurdles that you have to jump. I tell you, it's real, and it's hurting the state.
What can we read from that comment to the appointments that you've made to various boards, including
They're super people to do it despite everything.
Can you talk about the Long Island Power Authority? There's no CEO there. There's many boards still.
Howard, do you want to talk about LIPA?
Well, actually, sort of similar situation that the governor was just talking about in terms of recruiting people. We have had a team, as we've discussed before, looking at the reform of NIPA, and I expect that we'll be making appointments and talking about reforms very, very soon.
Dr. Governor, how concerned are you over the SUNY report from the Controller's Office?
Wait, I'm sorry. I interrupted Kyle. What was your...
My question was, if President Obama loses in another couple of weeks, do you think it might make it easier for you to try to find people to come to work in New York and have a lot of
Only you, Kyle. Only you. It's irrelevant. President Obama's going to win. Sir?
Governor, how concerned are you over the Controller's report of SUNY, and how much of it is a red flag for all state agencies that this may open up concern for all state agencies in this sector?
Which point on SUNY?
The recent report by the Controller's Office talking about misuse of funds.
You know, the controller is doing his job, and obviously you need constant diligence to make sure the money is being well spent and that funds are going where they're supposed to be going. I mean, it's just part of the job. It's what every person around this table does every day, right? A lot of money, always a possibility of fraud, always a possibility that money will be misused, so it requires constant diligence.
Are you concerned that so much money was misused and there was a possible lack of oversight?
Well, you know, there's going to be two sides to the story, I'm sure. So let's get all the facts and before I make any major pronouncements.
Governor, a moment ago, Joe was asking about jobs. You had the energy plan. I'm wondering, how does hydrofracking fit into all of this? Is that part of the energy plan and part of job creation? You're looking ahead now 5 years in that plans?
Hydrofracking was not in this plan or report as far as I know.
This
It's
is
not.
This is focused on the transmission and distribution infrastructure of our delivery system.
Do you think it's not going to play a part?
No, it wasn't part of the project. It wasn't included within the scope of this project.
Governor, as you contemplate surrogate duties in this last weeks before the election, are there states where you think you'd be more effective, perhaps nearby states like Ohio, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania?
You know, I'll leave that to them. I think it's going to be more a question of what do they consider the swing states for them. And they'll be looking at the numbers very closely over these past few weeks and over the next few days to see what shifts. There's going to be another debate tonight, I guess. So I'm sure they'll be taking in all that information and make a decision on what they need to win. And that's where they will be deploying their assets, myself included. But I think that'll be the way they do it. My guess is they're going to be looking at the swing states rather than where they think what state I might be more helpful in.
But among the swing states, do you have any preference?
Nope.
Governor, has anyone in the administration been subpoenaed by JACO? Have you talked to anyone about the investigations of the press release about the sexual harassment settlement? And do you have, when you're an AG, you would do these things pretty quickly.
Not that I have heard of, Mike. No, not that I've heard. I'm not going to tell Jacob what the timetable should be. That's up to them. When I was Attorney General, I did it in a way that I felt served the people of the state best, and Jacob will make the same determination. But I don't think it's for me to tell them when to do it or how to do it.
Governor, what's the latest with the possibility of the tax commission to discuss allocation of revenue, and what sort of specific things would you like to?
We've been doing a lot of work on that already. Because the commission, I think, is going to be very helpful, and we're going to name a commission very soon. But we've been doing a lot of the background work for that commission, and I'm excited about that. President Obama has talked about the same thing on the federal level. You need a certain amount of revenue, and you go to the people of the state, the businesses of the state, and you say, I need to raise X. What we haven't spent enough time on is, okay, the debate has been on X and how much do you need? Once you decide what X is, how do you generate X? From what sources? Over what period of time? And is there a way to generate X without doing as much damage or maybe even stimulating and helping the economy? Everything has been about how much and not how do you raise it. So we've been doing a lot of work. And I wanted to have the materials and the thoughts ready for when the commission is named, and we'll be naming the commission very soon.
Last question.
President Obama has been criticized for not going down into congressional fundraising, legislative fundraising in various states. Is that a part that you would be playing to try to help as a surrogate?
I think, Betty, again, I'll leave the deployment to the Obama campaign. I am helping with congressional races. I'm helping fundraise for congressional races. I'm helping Nancy Pelosi, for example, fundraise. So I'm doing that not because the Obama campaign has asked me to do it. I'm doing it because it's something that I wanted to do. And I'm assuming that the Obama campaign is going to want me to undertake activities that just help him with votes, getting the votes out, et cetera, because it's getting very close, and I don't think this is going to be a lot of tangential work. I think this is going to be direct, convincing people to come out and pull the lever for Barack Obama. That's the point that we're at.
Governor, there's been some criticism by multiple Democrats, both after your endorsement of Senator Solan. What's your reaction to some Democrats?
I disagree, Joe. I endorse Senator Solan. I endorse him fully. I know who he is. I know how he voted. I know what the priorities were over the past 2 years. I know how he performed. I had a glimpse of the man's character, and I think he's the type of person who should be in elected office, and I fully endorse him. To the extent people disagree with me, fine. That's why they have elections.
The Democratic opponent, though, has said that, on a host of issues, he didn't agree with you on this one big issue compared to quality, but minimum wage and all these other issues, he was on the other side.
Yeah, there are many issues, Kyle, and I don't know that you're going to find someone who agrees with you on everything. Property tax cap, which was a major priority for me. Senator Solan was supportive on Tier 6, which was a major priority for me. Senator Solan was supportive. And on the marriage vote, which more than just a vote where he was supportive, that vote for Senator Solan was a test of character. There are some times in your life where it's not just a professional judgment. It's a judgment, a call that you're making that is going to say who you are and what you're about, and in many ways define you. I had extensive conversations with Senator Solan during that marriage vote. He knew exactly what he was doing. And by the way, he was exactly right in how he predicted the political perils of what he was doing. It has unfolded exactly as the man envisioned it would. He said, this is what's going to happen, and it's exactly what's happening. And he said that he was going to exercise his conscience despite the obvious political peril. And that, to me, is extraordinary. It's extraordinary for people in their day-to-day life, it's even more extraordinary in politics. And I think a person of conscience and courage and character is exactly what I would want in elected office. Well, he doesn't always agree with you on everything. I'll take that. I'll take a man of conscience and character who doesn't agree with me on everything over a person who theoretically agrees with me on everything before they get here, right? And then things change. So I fully support him.
Do you plan to endorse other Republican candidates or Republican incumbents?
I will be doing endorsements on a rolling basis now, Nick. I haven't made all the decisions yet, but as I said, I'm going to be doing them on a person-by-person basis in the races that I get involved in. And I'll be doing that on a rolling basis going forward.
So do you think the Queen was Cuomo's curse again?
Where did you read that, Ken? Who said that? Who wrote that? I think, no. The sports teams have done very, very well under the Cuomos, right? Let's get the full record straight. I think not playing well in the playoffs is the Yankees' curse. I think that was their problem.
Governor, there's a lot of counties are putting the budgets together. They're saying they're doing all they can to stay within the 2% property tax cap, but it's unfunded state mandate, and the state hasn't cut themselves.
Yeah, except if they said that, they would be wrong, right? As a factual matter, they would be wrong, right? If a county official said to you, the state hasn't reduced state mandates, right? You say, well, that's not true, because the state has reduced state mandates, and the state gave you even more Medicaid relief, with the state picking up even more of the Medicaid cost. So it's just not true. Well, okay, I didn't mean that. I meant I want more mandate relief. Oh, okay, so you want more mandate relief. Look, the property tax cap is working. It is working. I understand the difficulty to local governments. I do. The reason I do is I have the same difficulties here, right? I came in, I had a $10 billion deficit. And I had to close the $10 billion deficit without raising taxes. And I couldn't go to the federal government and say, oh, by the way, I want you to reduce the functions that the federal government transfers to the state, or I want more money. I had to balance my budget myself. These good people had to go back and balance their budgets. And we had to do it without going to the taxpayer and saying, we know you're not in a position to pay, but we want more money, right? That's called life. And that's called the constraints that you are in as a government official today. You have to balance the budget. You can't go to the taxpayers and ask them for more than a 2% increase unless they want to pay more than 2%. Then you can go ask and they can vote for it with over 60%. And you have to balance the budget. And you have to balance the budget without saying, I want more money from above or less responsibility from above. That is being a government official today. Very hard to do, I know. But we did it. And we can do it. And the local governments have to do it. Because raising local property taxes is not an option. It wasn't an option for the past 10 years, every year that they did it. It wasn't an option when they chased people from their homes. It wasn't an option when they chased people from their state, from this state.
What about the argument from some local governments that, okay, we can cut, but the quality of life is going to go down sufficiently as well?
Well, fine.
Our town said we're going to get rid of...
Well, good. Ken, that's democracy. Then go to the town hall meeting and say, look, I can live within the property tax cap. And this is what it would take to stay within the cap. I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut this, I'm going to cut this. People of the town, what do you want to do? And if they want to override the cap, Ken, they override the cap. Because the cap isn't a cap, right? First of all, we have a cap. No, you don't have a cap. Because it's not a cap. Cap would suggest you can't override it. It's not really a cap. Go to the people of your town and say, this is what I would have to cut. And if they don't want it cut, then override the cap. It's democracy. Now, they have to be saying, I don't want to go to the people. Why not? That's democracy. And if you really feel strongly about your position, then go to the people, explain it to the people, and they'll vote over 60%. Because it's not a cap. Well, I don't want to go to the people. I want the state to give me more money. I don't have any more money. I want the federal government to give me more money. They're not going to give you any more money. Well, then I want fewer responsibilities. Pay my bills for me. I'm already paying your bills for you when I pay the Medicaid bill. And I can't pick up any more of your bills because I don't have any money either. And by the way, we did all of this without any relief from above. So that's the dialogue, right? And the reason I want to play it out because I think it's more productive to play it out so people hear it. Well, I can't with the cap. Then override the cap. It's very simple, 60%. By the way, most of these votes pass with over 60% anyway, and they have for years. So just explain it and override it.
Governor, there's been some of this criticism, though. Rob Astorino, your Polk County's county executive, called the cap a farce, according to local farce. What's your reaction to that, obviously?
What does that mean? On what theory?
On the theory that it didn't provide enough aggressive mandate.
It wasn't supposed, it's not called a mandate relief cap. That's not what it is. Mandate cap. No, it's not a mandate cap. I never passed a mandate cap. I don't know what a mandate cap is. It's a tax cap, and it worked very well because taxes aren't going up unless the people want them to go up. Now, did it put more pressure on local government? Yes. Yes. Well, we can't do it. Well, then go to raise the cap. You have all the options you could want. Every option is open to you.
How about these cities in particular? I mean, you hear the upstate cities saying they're close to bankruptcy. They're really stretched as far as they can go. The tax base just isn't there anymore. You don't do anything specifically to try to help the cities. You mentioned the local governments.
Well, play it out. So what's the option, Mr. Upstate City?
Cut costs further, services.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, right? Either the city would have to reduce costs, or what you may be suggesting, well, maybe the state can subsidize us. We're not in a position to subsidize costs, especially if it's unsustainable, right? Because now you're just saying you'd need an annual amount from the state to basically keep the city from reducing costs, but it's not a financially sustainable situation. Or if the city is really at the brink, we have a mechanism. If the city believes it's bankrupt or in danger of going into bankruptcy, then we have a financial control board that comes in and does just that. We've done it in Buffalo, Nassau County, et cetera. So we have a mechanism for that also. See, then the mayor would have to say, well, I don't want a financial control board because I don't want to give up control. Well, then do it yourself. Well, I don't want to do it. Well, then let the financial control board do it. Well, I don't want a financial control board. Well, then do it yourself. I mean, it's the same loop. These are tough decisions, but it is what it is. The decisions won't change unless or until you have a significant shift in the national economy that generates much more revenue.
But you talked about mandate relief. You set up a commission on mandate relief. Why is this such a...
Because we did it, too.
But you have said that more was needed and going forward...
And we will, yes.
But now you seem kind of not only negative but hostile to those calls for mandate.
No, I'm hostile to first of all, I'm not hostile, period. I am provocative because I want you to foster the dialogue when you have these conversations, which we now have repeatedly, right? Mandate relief, yes, we worked on it very hard. Yes, we came up with a report. Yes, we did some, and then we did a very significant mandate relief, which was the Medicaid pickup, which I am animated about because it costs us a lot of money to reduce their share and pick up their share, right? So that was a major item for the state. Do you remember how much the Medicaid?
$1.5 billion over 5 years.
$1.5 billion. Billion with a B.
Plus the state admin takeover.
That's right.
Okay.
This was a lot of money. See, now I'm getting more agitated thinking of how much money. This was a lot of money. So we did the mandate relief. Well, we want more mandate relief. I think it becomes an attempt to avoid the obvious, which at one point the numbers have to balance. The numbers have to balance. You can only spend that which you take in. That's life. That's everybody's, by the way, that's everybody's kitchen table. That's everybody's kitchen table. You have a paycheck, you can't spend more than the paycheck. Well, I want to, but you really can't. And for many years, they went right back to the taxpayer. And they just put their hand deeper in the pocket of the taxpayer. And the taxpayers left. They did. Well, that's not an option with the tax cap. All right, then reduce the cost so it's sustainable. Pray that the national economy turns around and there's a lot more revenue, and that's an alternative. But the numbers are what the numbers are.
Back to place this out. Just take what the local governments are saying is their crisis. In your situation, the reality of what the state can and can't do. Is it just, are you thinking at all that maybe the days for some of these smaller cities are just over? That there has to go to some kind of major consolidation effort?
Days of wine and roses are over? No. I think, Mike, look, can you close a $10 billion deficit? Yes. Does the place operate? I think better than before. Did the walls crumble? No. Was it hard? Yes. Was it unsettling? Yes. But did we do it? Yes. I think you can bring the costs in line with revenue. Because remember, the rate of increase in these costs over the years was phenomenally dramatic. Costs were rising exponentially. So it's not easy, but I think it's doable.
But the local governments will tell you what they're facing, which is a little bit different than the state, is their tax base is getting smaller. That's the trend for that.
But
while
yes.
pension costs and everything else
Yes.
are going up.
And you're right. But Mike, I said to you in the AG's office, you have to consolidate governments. I said to you in the AG's office, the number of governments you have, 10,500 governments in the state, is unsustainable. You can't pay for 10,500 police departments, fire departments, water systems. You can't.
Well, from that token, should we see perhaps Rochester dissolve Monroe County, Buffalo dissolve Erie County?
Jimmy, you should see local governments do what local governments have to do. And you should see people and democracy work. Now, this conversation on tax cap, even more, the discussion on consolidation, is a consolidation we have to have in a much more dramatic fashion. Because I believe if people understood consolidation, there'd be much more of an appetite for it. Isn't it remarkable how few local governments go through consolidation? Why? Because it's their world, it's their structure. And consolidation is threatening. But I don't think you can sustain 10,500 units of governance. Can you imagine the cost, the duplication, the overhead?
Will you be engaging on some of these referenda? I know, for example, there's one on Long Island sanitation district that's trying to be dissolved. Obviously, I believe you're the one who wrote when you were Attorney General, had a mechanism for a county to propose a plan wherein various entities within the county could dissolve. Are you going to start pushing counties to do this?
Look, Jimmy, I believe I have been pushing. And forget the local governments. I believe I've been pushing people to be aware of this and citizens to be aware of it. This is a real option.
Do you think the tax cap then and whatever it might do to limit
I think economic reality is going to take you there. I think these are economic realities.
But does the tax cap then spark a quicker move toward it?
Only because, yeah.
It's always there, and there is taxes.
Well, that's right. But yes, but only because it is an indicator of economic reality. And what they are all saying is you must live within your means. And this is a different economy than it has been. And you're not going to see the exponential tax increases that you've been seeing. That's what they are all saying over and over and over. The resistance, the pushback is, I don't like the economic reality. I want a way to change the reality. Let the state pay. Ignore it. Yeah, that's not going to happen. The economic reality is the economic reality. You want to talk about a structural change? Consolidations.
You don't see in your budget coming up any particular additional aid for cities or some other sort of mechanisms?
I have a $1 billion deficit. You know what I want? Mandate relief from the federal government. And when I get it, I'll pass it along. Thank you, guys. Thank you all very much.